Hi, this is Andy and welcome to another YouPatch design tutorial. This time all about the Pixelate page, which is a really fun page where you get to play with different looks and styles and start working on your quilt design. Now the first thing to notice about this page is that it is full of these little pink question marks where you get to find out lots of useful bits of information about how to use this page and what all the different bits mean. So please make the most of them, they're really helpful. Now the things that we're going to start playing with in this quilt are the level of detail and the number of colours. And we're going to get that right first and then we're going to move on. So we can have a low level of detail, which is clearly a less realistic image but easier to make, and a very high level of detail where it's very clear what the image is, but it's trickier to make, of course. And the same goes for the colours. Drop down the number of colours, perhaps even down to 2, or all the way up to the maximum number of colours at 15. Now what's interesting to notice is how changing the level of detail and the number of colours affects your quilt complexity down here. So at the moment this very high level of detail and a high number of colours, this is 3.5 star complexity, which is fairly high in the YouPatch scales. 2,290 pieces you'd be cutting to make this bunny, so you may have a look at that and say, I really like the look of it, but it might be a little bit too complex for me. And what this means here when we talk about versus 6,400 pixels, well that would be if you were making this quilt pixel by pixel by pixel and you'd have to do lots of individual small blocks, whereas in YouPatch we reduce that as much as possible by allowing you to piece larger pieces where there are the same colours blocked together. So let's have a look. I think I'm going to go with the medium level of detail in this bunny, but the colours we might somewhere in the middle, I think, maybe 8 colours, or maybe a few less than that, 7, yeah, maybe 6, maybe 5. No, we've lost the eyes there at 5, so I think I'll stick with 6. We're down to a 2-star level complexity and a manageable number of pieces for me. So once we're happy with the level of detail and the number of colours, then we start looking at the quilt size, and we have 4 different options at the medium level of detail, and you'll notice that if I change these quilt sizes, nothing changes on the bunny. But of course something will change, very important, and that is your pattern that you get at the end of the day. And the quilt size will obviously affect your yardages and your cutting instructions. But what will also change on this page when you change your quilt size is the size information down here. So at 72 inches squared you end up with 36 blocks at 12 inches squared, and the smallest finished square you're going to have is 1.5 inches squared. Or you might want a smaller quilt where we still have 36 blocks, but the blocks are now half the size. They're 6 inches squared, and our smallest finished square is 3/4 of an inch. So those are also things that you need to keep in mind when you're changing your quilt size and choosing level of detail and colours. All of these things are useful bits of information to let you know whether or not your quilt is makeable, as well as something that you find attractive and appealing. Now the next step will either be to hit finish an order if you're happy with the quilt just as it is, or if you're anything like me, you want to go and play with colour, and we'll go to the recolor page and we'll have a look at that in our next tutorial. But until then, we'll see you next time in YouPatch. Bye!